So going back to your childhood, because like I was saying outside, I feel like if we help people from the root and actually start with like maybe some psychological therapy or a social worker stepping in to actually assist them to what's really going on within themselves, that would actually help them from going down the route of being homelessness.
Prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Right. So what happened to you that you can attest to in a situation that would actually show that like it happens to people and somebody like you would need help?
Some of my earliest memories were joining a church at age 7. It was a fundamental Christian church called Trinity Baptist Church in Asheville, North Carolina. My pastor was Ralph Sexton, and then his son, Ralph Sexton Jr. And again, fundamental Baptist. And when a child misbehaved, as all children will, it was spare the rod, spoil the child. My dad used a belt. My mother used a hickory switch. She would say, go outside to the tree, pull down a branch. If it's not big enough, I'll break that one on your back, and then we'll go get another one. And I remember being lashed up and down my legs, welts this big, sticking up like that, and I mean, and then my brother, who was 7 years younger than me, watching him go through that. And that in itself was traumatic. My dad was 6'6", 300 pounds, a cop. And if you chewed with your mouth open at the dinner table, you got slapped to the ground. And then he'd say, go tell somebody, I'm a cop. Yeah, go. And I went to a fundamental Christian school called Temple Baptist School, where if you misbehaved at school, you got paddled. I mean, so throughout my childhood, I suffered through a lot of yelling and screaming and physical abuse. I mean, just thinking about it is hard, because I see my daughters, and I couldn't imagine putting a hand on them, especially not in a way that was corporal and meant to be painful. Like, I know parenting's come a long way, and parenting psychology has come a long way, but we were talking about intervention. You can't go back and intervene my childhood, but hopefully, this interview and adds to the collective knowledge that we can save the next child from abuse. Right. Abusive parenting should be a thing of the past. If you're abusing your children, if you're using drugs around your children, if you're neglecting them, if you're not feeding them, then you go somewhere where they are being fed. Period.
So what do you feel like we could do to help people that are going through situations where they don't feel like they're being properly taken care of? Because you do have places like foster homes that are supposed to be taking in kids and taking care of them, but I think maybe you have some experience to this, or people that have experienced, but foster homes aren't always necessarily the greatest place. So what do you feel like is a good way to step in and help people that are going through a situation like that? Because it's really hard to even identify from the beginning without somebody just kind of screaming for help.
I don't have if you take a child away from its mother and father, or in many cases its mother or father, where do you put that child and where it'll thrive? I don't have that answer. Do you put it with, could we pair up children with child psychologists? Maybe. The affluent obviously do better than the poor at raising children. I don't know on that one. I don't know what you do, because I don't know.
I feel like the answer might be society. And when I say that, I feel like the answer might be that you need a strong society because as they say, it takes a village to raise a kid. And I feel like a strong society is what is needed for the people at the bottom, which is considered our future, the kids, the youthful, are actually protected and taken care of and given that actual time to grow and develop. So I feel like what we need people to actually work on schooling and educating people and doing the necessary work, because it seems like what's really going on is we have all these government systems that are supposed to be in place to educate us, help us with being successful, help us with understanding each other and to live out in the world, but none of these are actually helping us. They're not being at all any benefit to us. You have foster care that's not doing good. You have health care that's not doing good.
In the group situation too, it's a group home where you have 20, 30 kids under the tutelage of 10, 12 adults. I think that parenting can only be done one-on-one. I don't think that you can parent in a classroom setting. I think that you can educate in a classroom setting, but you cannot parent that way. I think that each child needs love. Each child needs an intimate relationship with their caregiver. And without that, that child grows up to be apathetic or abusive, and they continue that cycle. I am so glad that my ex-wife told me, even before we had kids, you're not ever going to spank your kid, because that was my plan too. I'm going to spank the fuck out of kids. Hell no, you're not. And I mean, my kids have their issues, but I couldn't imagine what they'd be like had I spanked them,
I definitely agree with you on that, and I definitely feel like we do need to work on trying to build more love inside of the home and with the families. But for what we can do, and what I feel like we can do, is we can help work on the kids having a sense of community and working together. Because I feel like that's what school doesn't teach. It teaches you how to read out of a book and how to solve equations and figure out solutions that don't really apply to world applications. So basically what I mean by that is, I feel like if we could teach in schools that it's not all about you and that we have to work together. And I feel like that's what, sports and stuff help kids teach, and sports also provide that structure and discipline, which is why I feel like it's good that we put kids into sports. But I feel like if we started with the teachers and in the school, explaining to people that you need a community to work together. It's not all about you, and that we have to help each other and move together in order to all be successful. That solves everything, because that not only removes the selfish mindset from the kid that success is only for them and success is only attainable for them and by them. That removes all of that to make a person be able to see a person like you and see that you're in a situation that this person needs help and he's just like me. And what was I taught in school? That it takes all of us coming together in order for us to work and be greater. So the bigger issue is that we're not instilling in our kids and in the younger ages of our society that we need to work together as a community and help each other. Because right now in this society, everything on social media is very divisive. And that's what these kids are so attracted to, because we're in a young age where everything is technology based, and it's really easy for them to get on an app or a phone and have their opinions and look at other people's opinions and be influenced. But the real issue is that we're not actually taking the time to tell these kids that there is no other. This person is trans, this person has this view, this person has this perspective, but we can all work together with our differences and still be better. And I feel like a testament to that would be working in the schools.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that in school, one of the things that I was taught was the collective culture versus the individualistic culture, collectivism. That there are societies like Japan, Sweden, where China is much more collectivistic than we are. And I'm not saying that we should turn into China or we should give up our values, but I think that we do have to understand that it's not always, how do I come up?
Right, exactly.
If I give you $1, that means I lose one and you gain one?
Exactly, right.
No, we're sharing.
Right. And in me giving you money, that fills up the space for me to try and gain money. Because people have a negative perspective on things. Like, it's the old adage of the glass is half full or it's half empty. Because if, let's say, like you said, I take that $1 and I give it to you, the first thing in a person's mindset is that I lost $1. But now what you can then think of is, now I have the opportunity to gain more dollars so that I can help more people. Because I only helped one person with that $1. and now I don't have any more dollars. So if my goal was to be better and help more people, now I don't have that ability because I only have $1.
I think that we have to find a way to where this type of action, the collectivistic action, is valued. You know, and it's not valued by we post it on Facebook. It's valued in the fact that I've done a good thing today.
Right. People actually doing things.
Right.
Taking out the time to actually help others.
Right. And without anything in return. You know, whenever you have a system where you get rewarded for the good things and punished for the bad things, and that's the reason you're doing good things, is that really good? No, it's good whenever you help me without reward. It's good when I don't do bad without punishment.
So you would say that we need to run more on a society that doesn't promote criticism, but promotes help with...
I think it's a positional good. You know, the only way I stay up is by keeping my dollar. That keeps you down, and I stay up. You know what I'm saying? I'm better with this money, so I keep it. Or I've earned it, you haven't.
So I'm going to do the right thing with it.
You know, we all are taught as children that a human life is invaluable. Try to tell that to the woman who died in Freedom Park today.
What makes you think that we're taught that a human life is invaluable?
I mean, that's what I was taught, especially
In
through
school or in your family?
you know, I mean, I always felt, and both really, when I was growing up, that a human life, you couldn't put a price on it.
Do you feel like that's something that school actually taught you, or you observed through your experiences?
It might have been some of that Christian upbringing, and despite, how I talk about my parents, maybe it was something that they instilled in me too. Because I think there are cultures where life is more valued than others. You know, I don't think life is highly valued in North Korea for a chance.
I would agree with that, and I would and I wouldn't. Well, I wouldn't say I wouldn't. I would agree with that, but I feel like what brings a person closer to humanity is struggle, because you're not having all these other things that distract you. You're down to your bare minimum, and you're experiencing what life is really about and what's really going on. And I feel like people that come from those places like North Korea or Africa, or places that are really deprived, or they don't have any food, they're going through terrible regimes, they're oppressed. I feel like what they do value the most is life, because that's all they got. You really more connected to humanity when you have less, and you're not so attached to all these materialistic things.
During the Holocaust, the Jewish people were going to extraordinary lengths to say, hey man, I'll hide you, I'll do whatever we had,
Right.
And they had nothing there, I think that Viktor Frankl, I don't know if you've ever heard of Viktor Frankl, he was a Holocaust survivor. He said, life is suffering. The meaning of, the point of life is to find meaning in that suffering.
Right, I agree. Exactly. Because a lot of times in life we run from suffering. We run from rejection, we run from pain, we run from a lot of the things.
We run from other people's suffering.
But these are the things that actually make us better, is the suffering and enduring through the pain to actually grow, because you don't get better and you don't grow without going through pain, because pain is what changes you. So especially with a person that's been going through so much pain and so much change, how do you feel like you could use this to make you a better person?
I think that like going through St. Jude's has taught me a lot about personal responsibility. It would have been easy for me before I went to St. Jude's to blame my parents or blame society. I think that people, especially addicts, especially people in extreme poverty, have to understand being homeless is a choice. You have to take personal responsibility for what you have done and not done, and learn from your mistakes, and really be critical of yourself. And that is a skill that is hard to acquire, hard to appreciate, especially when somebody doesn't have shit to say, hey, some of this might be your fault.
Self-observation.
Right. But to accept that and say, hey, all right then, you know, and I've had to do a lot of that myself.
That's really good, man, and I'm glad that you're doing that.
I'm very thankful for places like St. Jude's and AA and other people, you know, even individuals that have said, what part did you play in you holding that sign today? You know, like for instance, right now, I don't have an ID, that's why I can't get into a program. But who lost his ID? Was he sober when he lost the ID? Probably not. You know, I mean, and I have to take that right on the chin. Okay.
So, I feel like you definitely brought up a really good, valid point, and I feel like that's what people aren't really doing. They're not taking that moment to externally look at themselves and work on themselves. How do you feel like, or what do you wish we did as a community to help people that are struggling with that? Because I feel like it's a skill, so it can be taught or trained or worked on. So how do you feel like we could do something, or what do you feel like we could do to help people with that?
I think this idea of personal responsibility has to be taught earlier on.
Right.
I think that no matter how much society reaches down, until I reach up, I'm not coming up.
Yeah.
You know, and society isn't coming up until we're both saying, okay, let's meet in the middle. You know, it can't, because there are some people that say, Uncle Sam has got to scoop me out of the gutter because Uncle Sam owes me. Right.
Sense of entitlement.
I served in the military, or I was convicted of a crime I didn't do, or my mom sucked, or, you know, I'm owed this because I'm an immigrant, or whatever they think. You know, no. You have to, society should do more, but so should you.
Right.
It has to be a symbiotic relationship where I appreciate, you know, my responsibility, and society appreciates saying, okay, if you're willing to come this far, I'm going to meet you halfway, because society will improve, and you will improve, and we'll all be happy.
So at what point throughout your struggles in your life with everything that you're going through, at what point in your life do you feel like if somebody came in and did those things for you, it would have turned everything around for you to help you out? Like childhood or early adulthood?
I just wish there were not so many, it seems, like when I walk into a police station, they say, let me see your finger, and they know who I am. When I go to the social service department, if I don't have an ID, it should be, give me your finger, give me retina scan. Oh, you're Brian Klein. Here's your criminal record. You're well educated. Oh, but you're a manic depressive. Okay, let's see what we can do for you. Not, oh, you don't have an ID. All these, it seems, arbitrary barriers, you know, really, really, to me, I think that we could do better. It takes so much money to come up out of the gutter. Like, you know, there are so many cars that run, and there are so many people that could use them to get, you know, I think that we have to connect wasted resources better. And then, you know, wasted people would have more.
So I do definitely agree on you. I want to touch on the fact that you said that people should be more accountable for their actions. And so on that fact of people being more accountable for their actions and having more integrity, I feel like that's something that should be taught into schools, or schools should be applying that. So, but I mean, you go through school from K to 12. So, I mean, in some cases you would consider a person that's a senior in high school, what is that, like 17 or 18, to almost be considered an adult. So at what stage in your life, whether it's early adulthood, a child, do you feel like people should have stepped in and taught you how to be accountable?
I think it's also at that age that we have to get rid of the stigma. Right. Because the stigma behind drug addiction, the stigma behind extreme poverty, the stigma behind being homeless is what prevents people from saying, I need help.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, when I have to feel like, if I go into my probation officer, hey, I have meth in my system, I might go to jail, instead of saying, hey, probation officer, I'm struggling again, what can we do?
Right.
You know, instead of being punished.
Right.
You know, and again, and teach children, You see that person over there? That's still a good person. That person living in a box, that person dressing it, that's probably still a good person. Or that person needs help. And it's our responsibility to help that person as much as we can. And not because of some religious duty, but because it's good, it's the collective good. You know what I'm saying?
Do you feel like because of the negative perspective that we put on these situations, it causes people to not want to get help because they feel like I'm going to be judged, and because they feel like they are going to be judged, they rather would just do it and just or punished, and they would rather just keep doing it.
Because addiction is nothing but I don't like where I am. I will like where I am a little bit better if I am disconnected. Right.
So if somebody like you said, like a probation officer or a police officer or maybe just a social worker came in and gave you that sense of accountability, while instead of criticizing you, encouraging you and telling you, okay, you've been honest with me. You told me that you've been doing meth and you're supposed to be clean. All right, I'm supposed to take you to jail, but you had a moment of honesty with me, which is what you're doing to ask for help, basically. So I'm going to try to help you. So do you feel like that's what people need to do more instead of just criticizing, encourage, and try to help people with their problems instead of just putting them in another category or prison?
Yes, because, obviously the status quo isn't working. The war on drugs is lost. And it's been lost. And it's a complete failure. And every dollar that we've put into it is wasted. And we've wasted lives and people's freedom and, the way we're doing things. If we don't change, we're going to get more of the same, but worse. There's new drugs coming out, fentanyl, different types of hallucinogens, and there'll be more drugs coming out that are more deadly and more addictive.
So do you think because of the direction that we're headed in and everything that you're saying, do you think that we're headed to having more people in your situation?
If we don't change, I see the middle class. Half of them are going to poverty.
Right.
Half of them are thriving.
Right.
Pretty soon there won't be a middle class.
Right. It'll just
There will either be the haves and the have-nots.
Right.
And sooner or later there'll be enough have-nots where there won't be any more haves. There'll be a revolution.
Yeah, exactly. I will agree with that. I would definitely agree with that.
So, at what point right now, since you feel like we're going down this direction, at what point do we turn it around? How do we turn it around? What are we supposed to be doing to get other people to see? Because we've come across some good points.
What we're doing is important.
Right.
Awareness.
Right. Exactly. Right.
I think these are complicated issues. I don't think any person has all the answers. And I think that more heads about in it are
Coming
better.
together and actually not judging people and looking at people in your situation like, oh, he's homeless and he can't do anything for himself, so he doesn't deserve anything, or he put himself in that situation. Which, yes, we agreed that homelessness is your choice, but at the same time, there's a line of things that happen that leads you down that ill-minded choice, because that's not a stable-minded person's choice to just be like, I'm just going to be homeless and live out on the streets and have to struggle and maybe do drugs and go through all these problems and struggles. So at what point do we figure out that we need to come together? How other than just having this conversation? Because there aren't enough people here that are woke enough to understand that it's not just about hopping on social media and figuring out how we can yell about something.
It seems to me like there is space available and probably funds available if we took it out of the military funding for interventionists. People who came out and said, "Hey, how you doing? Wake up. Hey, let's go to Dunkin' Donuts and let's talk about
What's going on?
yeah."
How we can help.
And that's all that person does is just outreach. Hi, how you doing? And it's no judgment, no. Here's a card.
Yeah, I do too.
And not a social worker. You know what I'm saying? Because social workers have, you know what I'm saying? Where a social worker has power.
Right.
An interventionist would only have options.
Yeah. And those options would be used to help and encourage people in how to be better in their situation. Right. And not just incentivize, but also, like you said, make a person take accountability for their actions, because we do live in a society where everybody is pleasure seekers, and sometimes that's what leads people to go down roads where they throw their entire lives away and become homeless. But we need to, like you said, have a person that comes along and makes these people own up to their responsibilities and want to become better, because you can only be better when you want to be better.
And I think that that's where people like judges, psychiatrists, these are the people that are in power who can make choices for you whenever you're doing really bad.
Right.
You know, and I just don't think that incarcerating people and punishing them is going to make them better.
So you're saying that they could use that same power that they're using to put you in a bad situation to find something to put you in a good situation?
I think that if my probation officer was like, "Oh, you test dirty for meth? We're going to send you back to St. Jude's," I'd probably be in there in the morning. You know, if I knew, okay, you're not going to Rice Street. Rice Street's a fucking nightmare to me. You know, and it's a nightmare to anybody. You know, why would anybody seek help from, which is of course the government, who is able to make enforcement and who's able to say, "You've crossed that line, bro," where you're not doing the best for yourself. We're gonna have to intervene. You know what I'm saying? But again, that's a slippery slope, and it would have to be done with tact and research, and you know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, but you brought up a valid point. We spend all this money in the military, and to be honest, we spend a good amount of taxpayer money on things that really aren't beneficial to the taxpayer. So if we're going to have government step in, because I feel like out of what we talked today, government should play a small role. Government has all this opportunity and power to play a role and be effective, so they have to play a small part. But businesses, they should be a guidepost, a foundation, a structure. And businesses should also play a small part, because they have all this wealth that they're just keeping amongst themselves and within their business.
but they should be incentivized.
They should be
That
incentivized.
hotel room, we're going to give half that hotel room's cost off your tax. It's a write-off. Oh, Mr. Psychiatrist, you have a 3 o'clock that's called out? Why don't you go down to the Salvation Army?
But businesses could come up with these ideas. So these aren't foreign ideas, but I feel like they don't take the initiative because they, like we said, people look at homeless people as the other, or that they're going to do something bad, or that they've messed up, so that's their problem. So I feel like with what we're said, agreed that government should play a small part, but businesses should also step up and try to play a hand with an incentive from the government to actually do something for all these people, because they're not doing anything either.
Well, I think businesses follow the wants and desires of their customers. If enough customers at the Hilton said, "Hey, every fucking empty room needs to be filled tonight, or we won't come back." You know, hey, American Airlines, those empty spaces, we want people who are stranded on those, or we won't fly American. You know, the companies are going to follow the lead of their customers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Where the money goes.
And, you know, I think for far too long and far too much, customers follow the lead of the company.
Right.
Oh, we got this new watch, bling bling.
They don't understand they're in control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's better for us to set the standard than for a for-profit anything to set the standard. I think that you see a good example of this where a person needing emergency care, doesn't matter where they go, gets it.
Yeah.
That's a good example where that's a society standard. Fuck your hospital, fuck your goddamn profit margin. Take care of that person with the heart attack.
Yeah.
If that person, yes. We need more of that. We need to understand that everything isn't life or death. That even some of these small nuances, oh, this person's having a panic attack every day. Let's see what we can do to find this person help.
I just feel like if we, because like we're saying, we need to hold people accountable. Let's hold the government accountable. All these taxes that they're taking from us and from other people, let's start using it for things that could actually help us and benefit us. Because it seems like we're, like you're saying, everybody is just allowing these corporations and businesses to lead them as to what they should be doing.
Yes, sir.
To lead them as to what they should be doing. But as I last checked, we're technically in a democracy, and the democracy is run by the people, and all the people have all the power. So what do we do as a society to wake up and realize that we need to work together, and that we have all the power, and that if we work together and with our powers combined, we can actually make good change?
We have to put our priorities in ethics and morals and the collective good over the individual profit. Well, we're getting kicked out of here.
Yeah, that was
I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, that was a good conversation, man. I
All
really
right, man.
appreciate that one. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up, and hopefully we'll see you guys next time with the next interview.